Victor Grossman, born in 1928 in Manhattan as Stephan Wechsler, was recognized as the American communist in East Germany. Already in 1945, he became member of the Communist Party of the United States. From 1945 to 1949, he studied economics and history of labor unions at Harvard University. With his draft into the military in 1951, he was stationed subsequently in Bavaria. In 1952, he deserted the US Army and found refuge in the German Democratic Republic. After a detention camp and a special apprenticeship for lathe operators, he studied journalism at the Karl Marx University in Leipzig. Since 1968, he worked as journalist, author, and translator. In 1994, he traveled for the first time after his escape to the United States. After a hearing, he was officially discharged from the US Army. He lives in Berlin, somehow logical, on Karl Marx Allee. On Wednesday, October 30th, 1990, the reunification was finally full-ended with the GDR, East Germany, joining the Federal Republic of Germany. How did your everyday life change from October 2nd to October 4th? Not that much has changed. I was freelancing, so I couldn't be fired. My wife kept working at a library at a hospital, so not that much has changed really at all. Prior to reunification, I was a sought-after lecturer on the United States and America in general, but this business died down. Nobody asked me about America anymore, as they could travel there now on their own. I didn't go belly up financially because I became an advisor and an interpreter for a TV series about the American West called Rawhide. The TV station here was not that familiar about the whole cowboy and southwestern and the frontier issues. So I helped with the translation and earned a good deal, and my wife was still working, so we were doing reasonably well without drastic changes. In which form were you worried that the US military might be involved in reunification and that you could be found in the eastern part of Berlin?
Ich hatte große Sorgen.
I was very concerned. I was really worried. Remember, in 1958 the wall wasn't built yet, so I could have gone to West Berlin, but I didn't. I didn't dare to set a foot on the other side or cross the wall on the subway. I was worried if there was any problem, any issue, they may notice me, and I could be arrested for deserting the US Army. Even after October 3rd, I was too scared, and I wondered if I could go to another country, but much of them were gone by now. Cuba looked like collapsing, North Korea was not an option, and in Austria would not possible could provide for myself or have a livelihood. I wasn't sure what my fate would be after I became living in the West again. Luckily, nothing happened. Really, I got illegal alien papers again, and everything went on without anything happening. In 1989, I got an invitation to go back to Harvard for a class reunion. Every 5 years, my graduating class would be in Boston for homecoming. I got my invite from a fellow student who actually was now a high-ranking government official, politically to the right even. So he asked me, why don't you come over? Why don't you come to our reunions? We'd love to have you. So I went to see the US Embassy in the GDR in East Berlin prior to the wall coming down. The consular officer told me to fill out some forms and come back and asked me to bring some pictures. When I did came back with my pics, she told me, listen, I did talk with Washington and I asked, and frankly, I wouldn't recommend for you to go. The army has a very long memory. So I sacked this idea, and 5 years later another invite came, and this time a lawyer in the US helped me. She told me, now you're welcome back. There shouldn't be an issue. They might arrest you for a night or two, but then you'll be free. I ended up not being arrested for that. I was discharged by the US Army, and I even got my US passport back, so I was free to travel any way I wanted. When I talked prior to my brother, telling him, he was very skeptical. He said it might be a trick, I wouldn't go, but I trusted that lawyer. His last advice was, if you get a new suit for the reunion, get one in orange. He remained skeptical, but all went well. What were your expectations for US-Germany friendship in 1990 and beyond? I had a strange relation to both my homes, my first home, the United States, and my second home, Germany. I always had mixed feelings toward both, and even deserting the US military out of pressure. I had to because of McCarthyism. I would be jailed for not revealing to be a communist being drafted into the United military. I was always scared, but I remained a US patriot. I always saw the good Americans, like John Brown fighting against slavery, or Harriet Tubman fighting against slavery, or Eugene Debs, a famous socialist, or Bill Haywood organizing unions. Those were my fellow Americans I admired. They fought the good cause. They fought for the good America. In Germany, on the other hand, I had only nothing in common with the Nazis, but nothing in common at all with the ones that made them great. Big business, willingly supporting them and building Auschwitz, for example. I had nothing in common with them, and I was happy they were gone until '89 in East Germany. But the good traditions, the German peasant wars in the 16th century, for example, or even up until nowadays, one of my favorite poets, Heinrich Heine, I always felt a deep connection. I love him a lot. Poetry and prose and all. My deep connection to the good roots in both countries and opposition to the bad sides of both nations remained intact. What are your expectations today in 2020? I hope with all the new dangers in the world, the new weapons that can destroy the whole world so much more worse and so many times more than Hiroshima or Nagasaki, where 150,000 people died in seconds. I hope both countries get along and don't start fighting. That's what I hope most. Secondly, I hope that COVID-19 will disappear quickly, which is right now raging around the world. And thirdly, that everyone learns to treat the world better, that everything isn't destroyed in the environment from Arctic ice to the birds. I was always studying birds in New York City in high school, and even today in Germany I watch birds and I see how the birds become fewer and fewer. I hope something is done against this, and also that there's progress and the living standard for everyone, that there are too many starving there, that there are too many homeless people. There was no homeless to be seen in East Germany. Poor beggars in the subway. Everyone deserves a roof over their head and enough food for oneself and the family and the kids. Everyone deserves health care and an affordable education. Already in Harvard, this was my goal. That's what made me a lefty. How I turned red to achieve this. I hoped East Germany gets there, and today I hope the world gets there. And I hope for no danger from atomic or chemical weapons, a healthy environment, and a decent existence for all. What is the story behind the pictures you brought us?
Hinter diesem Foto.
Well, the first picture shows me and my wife in front of our house here in what was then East Berlin. We moved in this apartment building in 1961. The house was brand new, and now I live here already for more than 60 years. We were lucky to get such a modern apartment, and we quickly got to know one by one everyone in the neighborhood. It's Karl Marx Allee 49, that's the address. The second picture depicts my first home when I was back in 1994 for the first time. My wife and I went from coast to coast, all the way to San Francisco and the Golden Gate Bridge. It was a great adventure to see my home country again after 42 years. I went to San Francisco with 18, but then I was behind the Iron Curtain for over 4 decades. We enjoyed it a lot, we admired it a lot, and we learned a lot. Plus I got relatives there I could visit.
Vieles gelernt. Und ich habe auch Verwandte dort, die ich alle besucht habe.